Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing that I am spending majority of my time pondering or, focusing on right now. It does seem like, I still have that voice in my head that tells me like, oh, that's frivolous. That doesn't really generate revenue. That doesn't really do anything. But I do feel like, my passion now, it's searching for the question or answer to the question of what it means to be a good enough human. You know, I think it was like probably 5 or 6 months ago, I stopped reading self-help book completely. When I talk about self-help, I talk about even the category of productivity. I've read every productivity book under the sun. I didn't know I have ADHD. I just thought I was inherently lazy.
There's just one hack, one tool I have to learn. That'll help.
Exactly. And, I've read a lot of, books that teach you how to be better, how to optimize. I listen to people like Tim Ferriss, the Knowledge Project, and all of these things. And the biggest change that I've gone through in the last like 6 months of my life is, stop telling myself that I'm good when and I'm good if, but accepting that I'm good now. And I struggle with self-love. And you're so right when you're talking about kindness. The kindness needs to be towards yourself first. And I think that as a society, we are burdened with so much shame and guilt. Like guilt is my default feeling. It's probably the Asian parenting where guilt trip is parenthood 101. You guilt trip your child into going to the school that they want to. You guilt trip your children into marriage. You guilt trip your children into doing anything that you wish that you were, right? Yeah. And I have to unlearn all of that, unlearn the shame and the should in my head and just sit with who I am now. Because if I can't love who I am now, I don't feel like I'm ever going to get to a point that I can love myself truly. So my mission now is to just really honoring what it is that I want, what it is that I want to do. So many times in the last year, I keep constantly pull myself back into the business, thinking that like, I want to explore photography as a hobby. Then I was like, okay, if I'm going to explore photography, then maybe I should do all the product photos for the company. I'll do all the model photos for the company. And then I was like, oh, I'll explore, graphic design or art. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll become the company's graphic designer. It just feels like, I'm only deserving to explore my hobby and interest if it's going to have some sort of positive, making money, having output, having performance, having validation from other people. I don't know how to have fun anymore. Like I just stopped having fun. I don't know how to have fun. I don't know how to enjoy myself. So I kind of just like stop reading these books, which I think they're so helpful. And if anything, I was once known as this person who gives the best book recommendation in our industry. People tune into my Matcha Monday wanting to know what's the next book that's going to make me a better leader, better marketer, better how to name your business better. Yeah. But now I'm in a place where I just ask myself, how do I love myself right now? Because I believe that, when I figure that out and when I can do that, that is going to be whether I'm going to become an even better CEO or maybe I'll do something else, but whatever it is coming from that place, it's going to bring me true happiness and true joy. And I know that like I come from a very privileged place to say this because I do have a good business and it is supporting, my livelihood. And a lot of people are in a position where they do have to still put in the work and they do have to make the money. So I'm not by any means telling people to just give up working and don't favor labor no more. And just
I say go for it. Give up work. See how that works. Because again, I don't prioritize happiness as the metric that I'm working towards. I go contentment. To me, happiness is too unstable, right? It's too dependent on too many external factors. I look for contentment. And so when I am in that frame, like, especially when I'm dealing with a lot of personal stuff that goes on, it's like, God, I'm upset about this. And I could let it tank my week, my month, my year. But when I look at the overall big picture of my life, I'm like, I actually have a lot of really great things that I'm really happy about. This is just one aspect of my life, not the totality that I'm unhappy with. So am I content with the full picture of my life rather than hyper focusing on the business isn't doing well or personal life isn't doing well? It's we have so many different aspects. And when we are seeking for that feeling, we likely have that feeling already in some aspect of our life. So if contentment or joy or happiness is something that you're wanting to experience in your business, well, it starts from within. Where do I already experience this feeling in my life in some point? Right. And so if you're looking for contentment, being pregnant, well, you may be at not the fun part of pregnancy, but this, like, I'm bringing a life in the anticipation and the excitement, and like, I'm really happy with the phase that's about to happen here. You can already identify and experience that feeling in your body, and then you can get used to that feeling, and then look at your business of where can I find that feeling in my business, or knowing that the goal is to feel that same way with my business, but it starts from within. Because what ends up happening, at least for me in my experience, is once I get clear on the feeling I want and I get secure in that feeling in my body, the decisions in life and my business and all these other things become so much more clear. Because, so let me give you an example. If I told you I hate your blue hair, what would you feel? By the
Judged.
way, Cheryl doesn't have blue hair, right? You don't have blue hair right now? Okay, so tell me
No,
why you would feel judged when I say I hate your blue hair.
because it's a choice of mine to make it
No,
blue.
no, no, no.
And
Currently, right now, you don't have blue hair, right? So does it matter to you whether I say you have blue
you
hair or
mean
not?
like not
Like,
hypothetically I have blue
no, like
hair?
right
Okay.
now, if I said I hate your blue
Oh,
hair,
I'd be like,
whatever.
Tara, maybe get your eyes checked.
Right. It doesn't affect you because it's not something that you're like, I don't have blue hair. So when you get so stable in your feeling that you have, no matter what somebody else's opinion is, you're not successful. Your business isn't successful enough. I know I know I have a successful business because it's successful by my terms. So somebody else's opinion of me doesn't phase me. So it's like me saying, I hate your blue hair. You're like, I know I don't have blue hair, so I'm unfazed by what you say to me. But it's because you have the confidence knowing I don't have blue hair. It's that place we need to get at mentally, where we're so secure in who we are, what we stand for as individuals, not somebody else's expectation, that when things like judgment on social media or judgment from our parents or our spouses or our partners or strangers on the internet, it far less affects you. So as an example, during the whole Black Lives Matter conversation on social media, I had people coming for me, right? Because I didn't speak to it in the way that they spoke to it. And they made really, really unfortunate accusations based on their own lens of who I was. They have no idea who I am. I've never met this person in my life. They have, the idea of who I am on social media, but because I wasn't participating in the conversation the way they wanted me to, they called me a racist. But they have no idea about my personal life. They have no idea who my neighbors are and who my friends are and who I hang out with and what I was doing that I didn't feel the need to advertise and publicize online to contribute to educating myself on what that actually meant, their experience of it. So if I identified as a racist, I might have been really offended and hurt by it. But I can't put any validation into their opinion because I know the things that matter to me. I know the education that I was going through at the time and the conversations I was having with. But it's having that security in yourself and not other people's opinions that really helps you to navigate all of these ups and downs, because we all have these expectations that we're trying to live up to by other people's view of us. And I think what has been the beautiful journey, what it sounds like for both you and I, and the discovery that we're on with entrepreneurship, is how do we get to be more of ourselves in this world and be more proud of who we are, because that's really what people look up to. You talked about, you didn't really see kind of what the gap you saw with Untamed Artistry was. Like, there was all these influencers that projected the lifestyle of who other people in our industry should want to be. I mean, I remember there was a lot of travel influencers that had big brands, and it was like, you should be them and you should go do what they do. Yet some of them were miserable, some of them weren't making any money, some of them were blowing all the money on credit cards. Like, we don't really know. Maybe they were really happy, but we were projecting like you should want to be them. Whereas I think now the way our society is going, at least what I choose to believe, is that the more relatable, the more human, the more imperfect you are, the more people want to be connected to you. Because it's like, oh, there's hope, right? There's hope that somebody like me can find contentment and joy. And even if it's messy and they're still figuring it out, right?
Yeah. I like to say, I used to joke around with my friends and say that I think I'm very inspirational, but just not aspirational, because no one wants to show up with like matcha stain on their shirt and just no makeup, like, hi guys, But now thinking back, it's like that was the reason why I believe my community loved me. It's because I was authentic. It's because I was me. I openly tell people that spelling errors and grammatic errors is part of my charm. I didn't lose sleep over it because I was okay with that part of me, because I knew that what I had to offer isn't a spelling lesson and a grammar lesson, but what I can offer is I can dive into rabbit holes that you don't have time to dive into, or maybe you're not so interested in diving into, and I can distill information for you in a way that you can just absorb it much easier. I have a question for you, Tara.
Go ahead.
What does it feel in your body? Because we talk a lot about
sexy.
You can feel it.
Thanks for asking. Sorry, I interrupted. Carry on.
It's okay. But what does it feel like in your body when you are in contentment?
That's a great question. I mean, it's cheesy to say free. And I have to look at what not feeling content in my body feels like. And that's anxiety. I feel my anxiety and tension in my chest, tightness in my chest, and like a pit in your stomach, where it feels hard to take a deep breath. When this actually happened to me, I was taking a little bit of a road trip the other day, and I was listening to a podcast, and it got to be too much input. And I think that's what you're talking about with the self-help books, is sometimes it's too much input that I'm like, I need to sit with my thoughts. So when I can sit with my thoughts and not be influenced by anything outside of what's in my head, to me, that's contentment. It's being present in the moment and not wishing I was somewhere else, either out of
not
pain
escaping.
in a different, exactly. Is being, and meditation has helped with that. Breath work, if you've never heard of breath work, it is amazing for anxiety. It's like 10 years of therapy in an hour. It's basically like you're hyperventilating in a guided way to get an influx of oxygen in your body, but it helps you kind of really just remove your thoughts in your head from your body to get clarity. And so when I can be so much at peace or content that I can access the thoughts that are really me, not being influenced by expectation, society, my thoughts aren't racing, and I'm present. The hardest thing for me was when I had kids and I started having a business that was taking up a lot of my time, is that I felt this constant tension of trying to be home and trying to be a mom, and going back and forth and feeling like I was always distracted. No matter, I couldn't be present. I couldn't be fully focused 100% on either option, and that sucks. That creates a lot of anxiety, especially because I had a home situation where I didn't know what I was walking into at any given moment. So the fact that like I can find peace and calm and be present, that's the contentment I seek.
That sounds really nice. It's just not being in your head. I think that's one commonality that most entrepreneurs have, is we live in our head a lot, but we forget that like we have 3 brains. It's our head, our gut, and our heart. But most of the time, I know for myself, have you seen the show Queen's Gambit?
Yes.
I have basically coined this phrase when I get into my head. It's like I Queen's Gambit everything, because you know how she stares at the ceiling.
Doing chess on the ceiling. Yep.
Chess, exactly. That's what I do with businesses. Like sometimes I do it literally. I used to, so much things that I used to take pride in as what made me a successful entrepreneur. And now looking back, it was just my anxiety helping me, well,
okay, so like what is the difference between anxiety and depression, as far as like where your head is at? Do you know, can you determine the difference?
Oof. I think anxiety is, okay. I guess like if there's a spectrum of how fast your brain is spinning, your thoughts, right? Like thoughts per minute type of thing.
Yep.
Right. I think anxiety would be the extreme spectrum. It just constantly spinning, telling you need to do more. You need to do this, you need to do that. Perfect. Blah, blah, blah. And then depression is the complete opposite spectrum, where you just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to touch anything. I don't want to think about anything. And what I learned in life, for someone who's very black and white, very like all or nothing, metal to the pedal to the metal, whatever, I forgot the saying. I don't know how to find that middle point, but I learn now it's a pendulum. I just have to pendulum going both way until I slowly find a happy medium, you know? So yeah, I think anxiety would just be like, 200 miles per hour on thoughts. And then depression would just be like your car is installed and they're just not moving forward in my head.
Another way to look at it is anxiety is living in the future, depression is living in the past. So even when you're talking about 200 miles per hour, you're trying to get to the future faster and predict every eventuality, right? You're trying to control as much as possible. Whereas depression, you're really caught in, I'm not where I want to be. I should be somewhere else. Like, why didn't I do this in the past? And you're just kind of stuck, but none of those have you in the present moment. And so you can talk about wavelengths, like anxiety is very a high energy, just like really racing thoughts, whereas depression is much slower and feeling like everything's heavy and you're just like walking through mud. Whereas when you're focused on the present moment, what comes up for me is that knowing that you're okay in any given moment, especially when it comes to anxiety and especially when it comes to depression, is like, yes, you're depressed, but you're okay. You could be better. Sure. It could be worse, right? But in this moment, you're okay. And especially with anxiety, acknowledging that no matter what ends up happening, because you have no control, right, over anything other than yourself, you're going to be okay. Yeah. Even if you're in pain, you're still okay. And it's really what our head makes up to tell us we're not okay. Because in this moment, I could think about all the things I want to change about business and all the personal stuff that's going on and go freak out about how I'm not where I want to be. But actually in this given moment, when I'm present, I'm sitting outside. Yes, I'm hot and sweaty, but like I'm healthy. I'm okay. Like people in my life are okay. And no matter what goes on, you have to get to the point where you'll be in the present moment, knowing you'll be okay when you can be in the moment. If you're thinking about all the things that could happen and the fear and whatever, like the shoe could drop at any moment, you're thinking about not being okay and how to predict and control being okay. But if you look at your present moment, 99.9% of the time, you actually are okay. And you were okay a moment ago. And just when I started this conversation, you were okay. Right? And when you're not okay, be not okay for a couple minutes, but realize that, yeah, you're okay. You have like an instant moment thing that we're all trying to avoid in this fear of the unknown in the future and all this stuff. But we rob ourselves of being present to being okay. And so maybe that's really what I'm going for, is trying to feel okay. Of course, I'm always going to want more. There's always going to be things that challenge myself, because that's what I signed up for with entrepreneurship, is challenging myself to get uncomfortable, to see how much more I can create and how much more of myself I can discover through this process. But in any given moment, I'm okay. Even when I walked away from the business last year, I was okay. I was lucky that I could walk away from a business and still be okay. And if not, I would have figured it out to be okay. Right. And so I think that is something to sit with when you are in anxiety or in depression, is where can I find being okay with being okay? Where can I identify that maybe not every area of my life I'm okay with, but what areas of my life am I okay with, and turning my focus on that. When we're talking about law of attraction, we're talking about manifestation and energy. If I focus my energy on the things that I'm okay with, then I won't be as in tune with the things I'm not okay with. Therefore, my energy will automatically start to change to be in alignment with the things that I am okay with. If I want to feel successful in my life, well, first, like you said, define success for yourself, then tune your focus, your energy, your mind, your thoughts on the things that are successful, rather than always focusing on lack and scarcity and the things that aren't going well and the things that aren't working. Because if you're focusing on that, then you're getting further away from the feeling you want to feel. It's not the external result, it's the feeling you think the external result is going to get you.
Yeah. It's always the feeling. Exactly.
Yes, it is never about the external result. And that's ultimately what you experienced when you got to 7 figures in revenue. And you're like, well, by definition, this is what I defined as success, but I don't have the feeling. Well, shit.
Not at all.
Right?
Yeah,
now exactly. I've got to rethink my whole life, right? And everybody thinks it's the money that's going to make them feel the way they want to feel. But how many celebrities commit suicide and have major drug problems and all these yes people in their life that are getting them further away, and then they have to go find something external like drugs and alcohol to try and get to that feeling. It's the high feeling that they're going for, not the external result.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I remember at that time I was thinking, when I was an aspiring food blogger who had like 600 followers.
Learning so much about
zero.
You. Food blogging? I mean, come on.
I had zero revenue, no way of even monetizing that, but I felt so good. You know, I felt free because I was doing something I liked. I was doing something that I was passionate about. I was doing something for me. I think that's what it was. It's like, I'm doing something for me. And there's just, I think obviously we all kind of start being born in today's society. We don't start with an advantage of, you know, having this freedom of feeling like, you know, you can do things for yourself. And that's something that it's going to take a long time to learn and unlearn. But, you know, it has to come from a place of doing it for you. And whatever you define by as success, it's going to come, you know, it comes when you're able to let go of like everything, like all the voices in your head. I think that, like, you know, going back to what I was saying, how, you know, the shame and the guilt, it's even watching, like I watch a lot of TV. So because I love analyzing human psychology, just like you. I love understanding why something works and like why someone do what they do. And even watching like Stranger Things lately, I'm like, oh, not gonna spoil the plot for anybody, but I'm just saying that, you know, even the underlying message there is that like shame, it's what haunts people. Shame is how, you know, the demon gets to you. It's a feeling of shame. And I think that, like, you know, it's the narrative that we have about who we are, that it's passed down to us with our caregiver, with our societies, with our peers, and with our generations. So yeah, it's not an easy task to, you know, unlearn all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And a lot of it requires a lot of pain to heal, right? Sometimes we have these scars, right? Mental, emotional. If you think about a physical scar, you know, and you have to, if you broke a bone and it didn't heal right, oftentimes they have to go in and re-break the bone to have it heal right. And a lot of times because of all of our conditioning from society, and we're raised by imperfect people, and a lot of people had trauma, and, you know, there's a lack of self-awareness. It's like really the bigger pandemic to me of just people being unaware that they have traumas that need healing. And so to avoid your healing, to avoid the pain to heal is counterproductive, because then you're just staying stuck in the misery. There's this visual that my business coach, always a story he shares, and says this guy is walking down the street and he's walking past this man and his dog who are sitting on a porch. And the old man's sitting there in his rocking chair, and, you know, the dog is just whimpering so bad. And the guy's like, dude, what's wrong with your dog? Is he okay? He's like, yeah, he's just sitting on a nail. And the guy goes, what? Why doesn't he get up? And he's like, I think it's going to hurt too much to stand up. How many of us live in that world where we're too afraid of how much it's going to hurt to start to heal?
Yeah.
In some ways, that to me, and that's kind of where I was last year, is like, I'd rather hurt and get it over with to finally be on the other side of this rather than sit on that nail any longer.
Yeah. I think, I guess my parting message for your listener would be, you know, one of the curse, I think, being an entrepreneur is that you can use entrepreneurship and the work and the hustle as an healthy escape, an escape that you don't even know that you're
societally acceptable escape.
Exactly.
It's not healthy.
Exactly.
It's acceptable. Yep.
Yeah, it's a societally acceptable escape. And so many people, just because it isn't drugs, it isn't alcohol, it isn't numbing out on the couch watching TV, it doesn't make it any different that, you know, if you're using it as a form of escape, you know.
That's when they call you a workaholic. Isn't that weird how it's similar to alcoholic? Good play on words. Yeah. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much, man. This went way longer than I expected, but this was so much good stuff. And like, obviously you and I can deep dive. We should do like a master class. We should do our own TED talk on this stuff.
I know. Seriously. This is like what I'm super passionate about. I think that, you know, I want to continue, you know, using my voice and my platform, you know, when my brain is a little bit more like gathered together. I'm going to find a way to combine food and this bigger conversation of mental health together, because those are the two things that I keep coming back to and extremely passionate about. So maybe I'll be an aspiring food blogger who talks about mental health.
I love it. I think there's definite niche for that. I was going to be the YouTube gardener I think when I
Nice.
walked away from Lashpreneur, not that I had any gardening experience, but I was like, I could create content around it.
Yeah,
They can
exactly.
find more about you and Untamed Artistry and connect with you online.
Yeah. So if you guys want to learn more about brands and learn more about lashes and techniques and skills and business mindsets and stuff like that, we have a podcast as well. It's called Untamed.
Yeah, you do.
And you can find that and you can listen to Tara's episode. It's one of our best episodes on our podcast. And then we also are on social media at untamed.artistry. And then if you want to get in touch with me personally, because you just wanted to chat about all the things that we chatted about, my Instagram handle is at a good enough human. So yeah, it was really nice being on here.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll link all that up in the show notes. Go check her out and, you know, support Canadian artists. Woo! We have a large Canadian following. So, but yeah, you guys will hear more from Cheryl. I am not done with her yet. So thanks so much for coming on, Cheryl.
Thank you so much.